In this video, I'm going to share the process behind a book cover I designed for a South African publisher. It's for an Afrikaans book called A Jaar in My Lewe, translated to A Year in My Life. It's a coming-of-age story that follows two teenage boys, Martin and Liam. It's about growing up, searching for identity, and how 1 year can change your whole life. In this video, I want to take you behind the scenes of the cover design. I'll show you how I used AI as building blocks in the process. To make sense of my choices, I'll show you what shaped the direction of the design at the very start of the project. Reading the raw manuscript. That's where I discover who the characters are. I make notes on their physical appearance, if the author gives that info, and on their personalities. This story takes place in the 1990s, which already gives a strong mood and visual language. Then there is place. The story is set in Potgietersrus, in the Limpopo province of South Africa. A quick Google map search always helps me get a feel for what a town looks like. In this case, I also have family who lived there, so I already had a sense of the town and its atmosphere. A lot of scenes in the book happen on school grounds, so I looked closely at school buildings in the area. South African school buildings are often brick with long blocks and corridors. Potgietersrus, modern-day Mokopane, is known for agriculture, things like maize and sunflowers. And then there's the Waterberge, the distinctive mountain range in the area that my grandmother loved dearly. I received a detailed brief from the publisher, and the author also added a lot of notes. Lorika Rauch, a well-known Afrikaans singer, was mentioned in the brief and in the book. The author has a soft spot for her album cover, A Jaar in My Lewe, which also became the title of the book. So I listened to her music while working on the cover to get into that emotional space. The brief also mentioned the Smashing Pumpkins album, Melancholy and the Infinite Sadness. The author specifically pointed to the 90s collage style and the colors there. Jan Arden and Jan Osborne were also name-dropped. All of this pushed me very clearly in a 90s inspired direction. Then came the process. I started by chatting with ChatGPT about possible ideas for the cover, in simple terms, two high school boys in school uniform at school in the 90s. The first images were typical weak AI slop, but they did one important thing. They kick-started my thinking. I also tried Midjourney with mixed results. Here you'll see some of the flops. Here's a typical 90s illustrative style that looks like a sex ed book. Here's a small town brat, but here's more glossy AI garbage. And then here Midjourney started spitting out more interesting options. Once I improved my prompts and added details about lighting and even the camera model. But I kept struggling with the age of the boys. They needed to look about 17 going on 18, and they kept turning out like slightly creepy twins awkwardly posing for the camera. So I took a step backwards and moved into character development. I decided to start from scratch and focus on Liam and Martin separately to really capture each of their personalities. Liam is shy and introverted, he doesn't like the spotlight. Martin is more rebellious and confident. But in the story he actually wears his uniform very neatly, which I found interesting. Looking at Liam's first versions, he's on the left, he looked a bit spooked and his hair was way too cool for the strict conservative Afrikaans high school setting. So I tweaked the details until I felt his look matched the world of the story. All of this character work was done with ChatGPT, then DALL-E. The good part was that I could have had a real back and forth conversation with the tool and tweak small details in their appearance. It was also really important to get the pose right. I searched the internet and found a reference photo of two young guys just standing around casually, like it's break time and they've got nothing better to do. I gave that photo to ChatGPT as a reference and I asked it to use the two characters we developed and place them in a similar relaxed pose against a brick wall, as if they were standing in the schoolyard. Then I took the image into Photoshop and used the generative expand function to complete and extend the picture. That's super handy if you want to lengthen a photo or fix a cut off foot, for example. Here you see the more refined version of the image that became the focal point of the collage on the cover. I added subtle pencil marks in Procreate to bring in a bit of handmade texture. I also wanted the characters to sit inside a physical tactile frame that hinted at the setting of the story. So I cut a circle from thick cartridge paper, folded it to create creases and natural shadows, and then simply took a photo of this with my phone. I dropped that photo behind the boys in Photoshop as a backdrop. Now I could focus on decorative elements. For this, I used more specific style references in my prompts. I used terms like Rococo and new classical art, and then added references to the natural landscape. The Waterberge, mountain range, planets, stars, sunflowers, all the things that appear in the book. Here you can see how everything comes together in Photoshop. Each element is cut out and placed with intention. All the small pieces combine to form the final cover design. AI is strange and fantastic. It throws a lot of useless junk at you, but sometimes it also gives you small, precious seashells. You have to be specific in your prompts. You have to throw away what doesn't work. You need to be highly critical of every output, and you can't give up too soon. Most important, you should still see your own hand and brain in the work. You need to keep control of the process, not the other way around.